Welcome to Value Plays Only, where Bergie is just here to support a Boast sub-theme. Today, we have Tyler, playing Glarb Calamity's Augur. This is a Sultai control deck looking to use Glarb's card advantage and Surveil to police the table. It can win with Thassa's Oracle or an Aetherflux Reservoir Loop. His hand contains a Birds of Paradise, Mystic Remora, Wishclaw Talisman, Opposition Agent, Veil of Summer, Hullbreaker Horror, and Command Tower. Cammy is playing Rograkh, son of Rograkh and Tevesh Szat, Doom of Fools. This deck is hell on earth. It looks to polymorph its commanders into horrible threats, denying resources and winning by causing all your friends to leave the room. Her hand contains a Lotus Petal, Mox Diamond, Tainted Pact, Chalice of the Void, and Arid Mesa. Her London Mulligans are Ruination and Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Dan is playing Najeela, the Blade Blossom. This 5-color good stuff pile is packed full of wins. In addition to Najeela-specific combos like Derevi and Grim Hireling, it can win with Thassa's Oracle or Underworld Breach. His hand contains an Esper Sentinel, Spellskite, an Offer You Can't Refuse, Thassa's Oracle, Tundra, and Underground Seed. His London Mulligan is a Snap. John is playing Dargo the Shipwrecker, and Reyhan, Last of the Abzan. This is a turbo sacrifice deck, looking to loop Dargo with Relic Legends and a Sacrifice Outlet, or Underworld Breach. His hand contains a Culling the Weak, Demonic Tutor, Goblin Bombardment, Command Tower, and Stomping Ground. His London Mulligans are Infernal Plunge and City Brass. And with that, let's see some value plays. Tyler starts things off with a Command Tower as land for turn. He casts Mystic Remora. The tables strap in and it resolves. Tyler passes the turn. Cammy plays an Arid Mesa as land for turn. She pays life and cracks it, fetching up a Badlands. She casts Lotus Petal. Remora triggers and Tyler draws. She casts her commander, Rograkh, son of Rograkh. She casts a Chalice of the Void with X equals 0. Mystic triggers and Tyler draws. She then passes the turn. Dan plays a Tundra as land for turn. He casts an Esper Sentinel. Dan passes the turn. John plays a Stomping Ground as land for turn. Into play on tap, paying 2 life. He looks around at all the draw engines and just passes the turn. Tyler untaps and in his upkeep he pays to keep Remora. He takes no other game actions and passes the turn. The table cheers as the fish is on the ropes. Cammy untaps and draws. She also misses a land drop and has to pass the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He plays a Savannah as land for turn. He passes his turn. In his end step, John casts Once Upon a Time for free as his first spell of the game. Mystic and Esper trigger. John pays for Esper and Tyler draws. He then looks at the top 5 cards, adding Orcish Lumberjack to hand. The turn then moves to John. John untaps and draws. He plays Command Tower as land for turn. He casts Orcish Lumberjack. John then passes the turn. Tyler untaps and in his upkeep he has to let his Remora die. He casts a Birds of Paradise. Tyler passes the turn, missing a land drop and wondering where it all went wrong. Cammy untaps and draws. She plays a Blood Crypt as land for turn. Into play on tap, paying 2 life. She passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He plays a Tarnished Citadel as land for turn. He casts Spellskite. Dan then passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He plays a Verdant Catacombs as land for turn. He pays life and cracks it, fetching up a Bayou. He floats a black with Bayou and then activates Orcish Lumberjack, sacrificing Bayou to add 2 green and 1 red mana. He casts Culling Ritual. Esper triggers and Dan draws. The table debate how bad this is for them and they decide they need to act. Dan does all he can and casts an Offer You Can't Refuse. Culling Ritual is countered and John makes 2 treasures. He then casts Goblin Bombardment. He casts Culling the Weak, sacrificing Orcish Lumberjack as an additional cost. He adds 4 black mana and spends 2 for his last card in hand, Demonic Tutor. This represents the end of the game, so in desperation, Cammy casts Tainted Pact. Esper triggers and Dan draws. Cammy starts exiling and goes through 30 or so cards before stopping on Deadly Relic, not seeing what else could interact here. Demonic Tutor then resolves and John searches up and casts Relic of Legends. He taps it for a red to cast his commander, Dargo the Shipwrecker. He taps Dargo for a red through Relic and then sacrifices it to Goblin Bombardment to ping Spellskite for 1. He then recasts Dargo for the 1 red mana floating. John can now present a loop of casting Dargo for 1, then tapping it to Relic to make the 1 mana back. He can sacrifice it over and over to Goblin Bombardment, first pinging off Spellskite, then pinging each of his opponents for 1. He does this over and over until his opponents are dead. And with that, John wins the game. Today, we have a 2-for-1 deal. In this game, Tyler's playing Dargo the Shipwrecker and Tymna the Weaver. This deck looks to loop Dargo with Relic of Legends or Bergie and a Sacrifice Outlet, or it can win with Underworld Breach. His hand contains Lotus Petal, Lion's Eye Diamond, Lotho Corrupt Sheriff, Enlightened Tutor, Arid Mesa, Raucous Theater, and Godless Shrine. Josh is playing Atraxa, Grand Unifier. This is a big mana food chain deck. It looks to ramp out its commander for massive value, winning with Thassa's Oracle or commander damage. His hand contains a Birds of Paradise, Pact of Negation, Kin and Bonder Prodigy, Smothering Tithe, Temple Garden, Marsh Flats, and Tundra. John is now playing Rograkh, son of Rograkh and Tevesh Szat, Doom of Fools. His hand contains a Culling the Weak, Basalt Monolith, Nether Void, Contamination, Ancient Tomb, Mountain, and Bloodstained Mire. Dan is playing Tivit, Seller of Secrets. This deck looks to slowly control the game until it can cast Tivit. From there, the deck can win with Thassa's Oracle or Time Sieve. His hand contains a Mystic Remora, Swan Song, Flusterstorm, Commandeer, Chrome Mox, Arcane Signet, and Ancient Tomb. And with that, let's see some value plays. Tyler starts things off with an Arid Mesa as land for turn. He pays life and cracks it, fetching up a Badlands. He casts a Lotus Petal. He casts Lion's Eye Diamond. He cracks Petal to help cast Lotho, Corrupt Sheriff. He then passes the turn. Josh plays a Marsh Flats as land for turn. He pays life and cracks it, fetching up a Bayou. He casts a Birds of Paradise. Josh passes the turn. John plays a Bloodstained Mire as land for turn. He pays life and cracks it, fetching up a Badlands. He casts his commander, Rograkh, son of Rograkh. He casts a Culling the Weak, sacrificing Rograkh as an additional cost. Lotho triggers to lose life and make a treasure. He spends 3 on Basalt Monolith. He casts a turn 1 Nether Void. The table lose their minds and strap in for one of the worst games of all time as John cackles in the background. Tyler responds with an Enlightened Tutor. He searches up a Soul Ring to the top of his library. Nether Void then resolves, and John passes the turn. Dan plays an Ancient Tomb as land for turn. He passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He plays a Command Tower as land for turn. He casts a Soul Ring. Nether Void triggers and he cracks Lion's Eye Diamond and discards his hand to pay. Tyler goes to combat swinging Lotho at John. John takes it and Tyler passes the turn. Josh untaps and draws. He plays a Tundra as land for turn. He passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He plays an Ancient Tomb as land for turn. John passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He plays a Scrubland as land for turn. He casts a Chrome Mox. Nether Void triggers and he pays. It resolves and he imprints Flusterstorm. Dan then passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He plays Cavern of Souls, naming Human as it enters. He goes to combat and swings Lotho at John. He takes it and Tyler passes the turn. Josh untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn. In his end step, John pays 3 mana into Basalt Monolith to untap it. John untaps and draws. He plays a Mountain as land for turn. He says he has even more hell to lay down and offers Dan a 50-50 choice on what the next terrible card will be. Dan picks a card and John casts Trinisphere. The groans from the table rattle the windows as Nether Void triggers and John pays. He then passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He goes to combat and swings Lotho at John. John takes it and Tyler passes the turn. Josh untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He also takes no game actions and passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn, adding to the most exciting play-by-play we've seen this year. Tyler untaps and draws. He goes to combat, swings Lotho at John. He takes it, and Tyler passes the turn. Josh untaps and draws. He breaks up the monotony and plays Tropical Island as land for turn. He then passes the turn, still not up to the minimum 6 mana requirement. In his end step, John pays to untap Assault Monolith. John untaps and draws. He puts this game into high gear with the first spell in forever, Will of the Jeskai, choosing the Wheel mode. Nether Void triggers and he pays. Everyone discards their hand and draws 5 cards. John then plays Urza's Saga as land for turn, getting his first counter. He passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He plays Air Mesa as land for turn. He passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn. Josh untaps and draws. He plays a Flooded Strand as land for turn. He then passes the turn. John untaps and draws. In his first main phase, Urza's Saga gets its second counter. He then passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn. Josh untaps and draws. He plays a Wooded Foothills as land for turn. He pays life and cracks both Wooded Foothills and Flooded Strand to fetch up Scrubland and Savannah to the battlefield. He casts a 6 mana Chrome Mox, paying for Nether Void. It resolves and he imprints a Flusterstorm. He then passes the turn. In his end step, John activates Urza's Saga to create a construct. John untaps and draws. In his main phase, Urza's Saga triggers. John floats a mana in response and then searches up a Soul Ring to the battlefield. He casts a Karn, the Great Creator, paying for Nether Void. He activates the +1 loyalty ability of Karn on his Trinisphere to make a blocker. He then goes to combat, swinging his construct at Dan. Dan takes it, and John passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He plays a tapped Meticulous Archive as land for turn, triggering to surveil Time Sieve into his grave. With a good indication of how this game is going for him, Dan passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn. Josh untaps and draws. He taps out for a 6 mana Lotus Petal, defiant in the face of Karn, paying for Nether Void. He then passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He activates the +1 loyalty ability of Karn on Trinisphere again. He goes to combat and swings his construct at Dan. Dan takes it, and in his second main phase, John casts a 6 mana Arcane Signet, paying for Nether Void. He then passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He plays a Wooded Foothills as land for turn. He passes the turn. Josh untaps and draws. He casts a 6-mana Deathrite Shaman, paying for Nether Void. Josh passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He casts Transmogrify, targeting his construct. Nether Void triggers and he pays. In response, Tyler pays life and cracks Wooded Foothills, fetching up a plateau. Transmogrify then resolves, exiling the construct, and John goes flipping. He starts flipping cards from the top of his library, speeding down until he hits Valgavoth, Terror Eater, putting it into play. Finally feeling like he has a clock, John passes the turn. Dan taps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes, discarding to hand size into the Valgavoth zone. Tyler taps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn, discarding to hand size into the Valgavoth zone. Josh untaps and draws. He says their savior is here and casts Gilded Drake. Nether Void triggers and he pays. John's eyes go wide as it enters and triggers targeting Valgavoth. Ward triggers and Josh sacrifices 3 non-land permanents into the Valgavoth exile zone. Gilded Drake and Valgavoth exchange control, and Josh passes the turn. John untaps and cries a single tear for his boy. He casts Fire Covenant, paying 10 life as an additional cost, targeting Lotho for 1 and Valgavoth for 9. Nether Void and Ward trigger. John sacrifices 3 non-land permanents into exile and then pays 3 mana. The board is reset, and John opts to pass the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn, discarding to hand size. Tyler untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn, discarding to hand size. Josh untaps and draws. He casts Opposition Agent to put the attacking pressure back on John. Nether Void triggers and he pays. Josh then passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He activates the -2 loyalty ability of Karn to return his exiled Basalt Monolith to hand. He casts Basalt Monolith, paying for Nether Void. He then passes the turn, on the brink of death. Dan untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn, discarding to hand size. Tyler untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn, discarding to hand size. Josh untaps and draws. He casts a 6-mana Mox Opal, paying for Nether Void. He goes to combat swinging Oppo at John as Tyler and Dan cheer him on. John takes it, and Josh passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He plays a Prismatic Vista as land for turn. He pays life and cracks it right into Opposition Agent. This game has gone long, and the table are delirious. Josh searches up a swamp in exile with Opposition Agent. In an act of desperation, John uses the +1 ability of Karn to animate his Basalt Monolith. He then passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn, discarding to hand size. Tyler untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn, discarding to hand size. Josh untaps and draws. He plays a Scalding Tarn as land for turn. He swings Opposition Agent at John. John blocks with Basalt Monolith and both die. Josh then passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He activates the +1 ability of Karn to hide behind his Trinisphere. He passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn, discarding to hand size. Tyler taps and draws. He plays a Sacred Foundry into play on tap, paying 2 life. He passes the turn. In his end step, Josh pays life and cracks Scalding Tarn, fetching up a Breeding Pool into play on tap, paying 2 life. Josh untaps and draws. He plays Polluted Delta as land for turn. He passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He plays Phyrexian Tower as land for turn. He activates Karn to animate Trinisphere and passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He pays a life and cracks Arid Mesa, fetching up a Hollowed Fountain into play on tap, paying 2 life. He casts a Rhystic Study, preparing for John's demise. Nether Void triggers and he pays. Dan then passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn, discarding to hand size. Josh untaps and draws. He pays life and cracks Polluted Delta, fetching up an Underground Sea. He passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He's really starting to feel the weight of his terrible choices. He uses Karn to animate Trinisphere, and then passes the turn, discarding to hand size. Dan untaps and draws. He plays a Marsh Flats as land for turn. He pays life and cracks it, fetching up an Underground Sea. He casts a Wan Shi Tong Librarian with X equals 2. Nether Void triggers and he pays. He enters with 2 counters and draws a card. John takes a big gulp as he looks at his life total. Dan then passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn, discarding to hand size. Josh untaps and draws. He casts a Time Twister, paying for Nether Void. Everyone shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library and draws 7 cards. Josh plays John's Swamp from exile as land for turn. He passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He plays a Spire of Industry as land for turn. He activates Karn to animate his Trinisphere. He sacrifices Trinisphere to Phyrexian Altar for 2 black mana. He casts Demonic Tutor. Desperate to look for an out to the bird that's about to take him into beat downtown. John goes looking through his library, but can't find anything to help him with the mana that he has. He searches up a card to hand. Wan Shi Tong triggers to get a counter and draw. John just passes the turn, resigned to his fate. Dan untaps and draws. He goes to combat swinging Wan Shi Tong at John, killing him. A wave of freedom and happiness wash over the table for a moment. In his second main phase, Dan plays a Verdant Catacombs, his land for turn. He casts a Soul Ring. Josh responds with a Metal Misstep. Rhystic triggers, and in response, Josh casts Abrupt Decay on Rhystic. Magic is back on the menu. Rhystic triggers and Dan draws. Dan casts Commandeer, targeting Abrupt Decay, exiling Mystic Remora and Urza, Lord High Artificer, as an alternate cost. Tyler steps in here with a Redirect Lightning, paying 2 extra, targeting Commandeer. Rhystic triggers, and in response, Dan casts Vampiric Tutor. Tyler responds with a Dualcaster Mage. Rhystic triggers and Dan draws. Dualcaster enters and triggers to make a copy of Commandeer, targeting Vampiric Tutor. It resolves, and Tyler gains control of Vamp Tutor. He searches up a card at the top of his library and loses 2 life. Wan Shi Tong triggers to draw. Dan then draws for Rhystic. Redirect Lightning changes Commandeer to target Metal Misstep. Commandeer resolves and gains control of Metal, but the only legal target is still Soul Ring. Abrupt destroys Rhystic, Dan draws, then counters his own Soul Ring. With the stack finally clear, Dan casts Manifold. He pays a life and cracks Verdant Catacombs, fetching up a Watery Grave. Into play on tap, paying 2 life. He casts his commander, Tivit, Seller of Secrets. It enters and Dan votes for 2 treasures, and Tyler and Josh also vote treasures. Dan casts Time Sieve. It resolves, but Dan doesn't have enough opponents to present a loop. He activates Time Sieve, sacrificing Mana Vault and 4 treasures to take an extra turn. He passes to himself. Dan untaps and draws. He plays Exotic Orchard as land for turn. He casts Marnius Calgar. Dan goes to combat and swings Tivit and Wan Shi Tong at Tyler. He takes the damage and Tivit triggers. Dan votes 2 clues and the others vote treasures. Marnius triggers 3 times to draw, as each investigation is a different instance of a token. In his second main phase, Dan improvises Whir of Invention. He searches up a Witchclaw Talisman to the battlefield. He activates Witchclaw, searching up a card to hand and giving it to Tyler. He then sacrifices 5 artifacts, 2 Time Sieve to take an extra turn. He passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He casts Thassa's Oracle. It enters and triggers, and Dan holds priority and casts Demonic Consultation. He names You Are Already Dead and exiles his library, not finding it. Thassa's Oracle's ability then resolves, and with no library remaining, Dan finally wins the game. So, what do we learn today? Just because a start seems oppressive doesn't mean it will translate into a win. Turns out 18 turns of your opponents banding together may be enough to kill you. If you have any tips for the video, leave them below. Subscribe if you feel like it. Until next time, keep making value plays.
No, Kimmy, don't pay him out. Kimmy, if we all go slow, then we're all equally good.
Yeah, but
Don't listen
you'll
to him.
say that.
You're
and
not
I'll
a
go
slow
slow.
guy.
I'm-
won't go slow.
Kimmy, I'm gonna play a land
You're a
pass.
slow. You're not.
If
a
I draw
slow
Mana
guy,
Dork, I'll
Kimmy,
play.
go. Jam.
Dude, he wants those cards
I need
so
a land.
bad.
I need a fucking
He
land
wants
for this
that
card.
Dude, starve him out.
Yeah, just
That
wait.
fish can't keep eating forever. Holy shit, guys, I'm feeding him.
You gotta
Come
start
on,
already.
what the
See,
hell?
this would have happened.
Yep.
No, I
If
won't.
gone slow.
You know what? Cammy, I am a responsible boy. Here's a stomping ground tapped pass. Wow.
I'm tapping. I'm paying for fish.
No, you know what? I'm paying for it.
Oh,
you get-
Okay.
No, I'm not doing anything.
Okay.
You're holding it up? Yeah, I'm holding it up.
Okay. I'm
So I
drawing.
can flash in against
Wow.
everything.
I'm moving to discard.
Yes!
Wow.
Crazy, dude. This game's over.
Can you get out of the video area with all of your slop?
Okay, I'm not in the
Yeah.
video area, right?
Finale.
Like, we're outside.
Okay.
Dan, I know you got plays, and you just won't fucking play.
What do you mean?
I know you got
What am I
plays.
supposed to hit with the fucking Once Upon a Time?
Guys,
I'm talking
I'm
about the 2 mana you just
incredible.
sit there.
Oh,
Yeah,
I've got
Orcish
stuff to do.
lumberjack.
Dang, that's awesome.
It was the only
So
creature.
good.
I actually didn't even get a land there, so
I can't believe I've drawn 8 cards or
however fucking whatever.
however fucking whatever cards.
I'm trying however fucking whatever cards.
Yeah, that's insane.
You know. Dude, hype! Land drop!
Nice. I'll hit you with an offer.
Hype.
Yeah, right?
I mean, literally,
It's
I
better
was.
than us losing our whole board.
I just wanted Dan to lose spell Skite thing.
Yeah.
Oh, trigger Esper.
Yeah, you're good.
Yes. I can spell Sky Goblin bombardment.
Sure, I will sack him to start blowing your board to bits.
Okay, sure.
And then I will just
Yeah.
send him at you
Yeah.
over and over until everyone's dead.
Okay.
Don't get too strong, brother. Dude, can I get a fucking stupid fish that makes me actually hit the shit that I expect
Dude,
to
can we
hit?
talk about how
Fucking crazy.
my hand sucked and then I got that orchid? First off, for turn, I got Once Upon a Time into Lumberjack, and
Yeah.
suddenly, he just like, make so much mana.
Yep.